So, wonderful people, when the time comes, at the right time, when we move close, I ask you for your vote. But I don't stop there. I ask you to also hold me to account. That if you are drawn enough to give me your vote, also hold me to account. Ask me questions. I liked what the Gen Zs who are here were speaking. I mean, wonderful, clever kids. A country that is endowed like that, should we be killing these kids instead of listening to them, Jamani? Yeah? With this kind of brain, I mean, you saw here, brilliant. And this is what you see everywhere you go in the country. Very smart people, determined to contribute to their country, very patriotic. So we are at a very interesting time. You can see what is going on in the country. I don't want to describe our problems. I believe as leaders, we should not spend time describing our problems. We should be spending more time looking for solutions on how we'll fix our problems. I believe that in the case, we want to go backwards. We reduced capitation from 22,000 to about 16 or so. It's not even going to schools. And every day is excuses upon excuses, you know. In fact, I would be forgiven if I described what we have in our country as government by excuses. You know, it started with no, it is Uhuru and his term. Then no, it's Raila and Azimio and I don't know who. Then now, ni Wakikuyu wanataka kuharibu serikali. As I said the other day, next year it's going to be ni Wakizi na Wakamba wanataka kuharibu serikali. You know, so looking for someone to blame for things that we are supposed to be doing. Good people. We have challenges in our country. Some of them are man-made. Let us work on solving them. I am ready to lead the team to fix those challenges. I'm ready. Because it's true. Because this is not geophysics. This is not rocket science. These are straightforward matters where we need honesty and trust to make the decisions. As I move towards the end of my remarks this evening, away from my troublesome pencil, good people, about a year and a half ago, when I was about a few weeks old at the bank, I met a group of young economists, Kenyan young economists at the bank, just pumped into me as we were having tea. And then the way people get excited when they bump into me in town, oh, CS, you are here. I said, yeah, I'm here. Really, you are the one here? I said, yeah, I'm not AI generated, it's me. You know, we said, do you mind giving us a few minutes? You know, we would like to hear your story about public service. What do you think? I said, I have no problem. When do you want us to meet? We agreed to meet some day in the course of the week. And we were together for about 2 hours. Then they asked me, after all the stories are said and done, what are the 2 things you would like us to learn even as we work here at the bank? I told them, 1, always part for your country. Fight for your country. We may have whatever challenges we have at home. We have disagreements sometimes because of politics. But our country is our collective foremost responsibility. Love your country. Don't talk your country down. Because we must love our country. We have not come very far away from home to this place to talk our country down. Secondly, I told them the best thing you can do with your life, and I believe it, the best thing you can do with your life is touch someone. Go to your village, wherever you come from, Muranga, Kakamega, wherever it is. If there's an orphaned child there who cannot afford fees, save some of your lunch or whatever in the course of your stay here at the bank where you're earning dollars and pay fees for someone and affect the life of someone. And they should not be people related to you by blood or whatever. They should be people you know from your village or somewhere there. Contribute to shaping the destiny of another life. That's why God has put us here. So that then, Dr. Bogongo begins what I see basically as my vision and philosophy. We are here for service. None of us is going to live forever. we will not live eternally. Those days of biblical people like Methuselah and so on living 900 years are not there. We are going to be here for a short time. And while we are here, let us render service and serve fellow men. The greatest opportunity we have is to serve our country and to serve our fellow men. And there's nothing more nobler than to be asked to serve your country. I had the privilege of serving my country in the position of cabinet minister, and every day for the 10 years I served, every single day I thank the Lord for the opportunity he gave me to come into contact with so many Kenyans. And as I told another group last night, every day is a very humbling experience, and every day drives you to an emotional point where you find meaning in human life by touching the life of another person. Whether it is, high school students. I've narrated stories about how I went to schools, and sometimes a student will tear through the security and almost grab me, like an experience that happened one time in a school in Nyanza, and tell me, we are going to be sent home. The administrator said we are waiting for the parents' day. I have fees arrears for the last 1 year. My mother died. My grandmother, who has been supporting me, also died last holiday. And I tell the headmistress, I will pay fees for this kid. Let her stay. I used to tell my cabinet colleagues, if they asked me to assist them together from one place for someone, I told them only one condition, that you pay fees for 2 people in that school. Then I will assist you. It's about service. I believe in service, delivering service to people. And that journey of life that I had in the public service was fulfilling and very exciting. And so this is why I am having a listening conversation. So I answered your call, and the call of those many people who were asking me, sasa mbona tunazama? One religious leader I respect waited for me at the door of a hardware in Karen. I had bought some nails. I was going to fence something. I was on leave. I found this bishop waiting for me there at the door. And he said, CS, I was waiting for you. Oh, I said, Bishop, I didn't know you are here. Oh, he said, I'm here. I wanted to talk to you. Number one, you disappointed us in 2022. Why? We thought you were going to be on the ballot. I said, no, but we had 2 candidates. He said, now, okay, I want to tell you this, and it's a feeling of a lot of people I talk to. Would you consider running for public office? I said, you are a man of God. Why don't you all pray about it? And then figure out what will happen. Because, I can't give you an answer directly. I need also to consult and talk to other people. And I've been talking to people about this. I'm also responding to this call and responding to this advice and support so that I make a contribution in my life, in the service and in the development of my country. So, wonderful people, when the time comes, at the right time, when we move close, I ask you for your vote. But I don't stop there. I ask you to also hold me to account. That if you are drawn enough to give me your vote, also hold me to account. Ask me questions. I liked what the Gen Zs who are here were speaking. I mean, wonderful, clever kids. A country that is endowed like that, should we be killing these kids instead of listening to them, Jamani? Yeah? With this kind of brain, you saw here, brilliant. And this is what you see everywhere you go in the country. Very smart people, determined to contribute to their country, very patriotic. So we are at a very interesting time. You can see what is going on in the country. I don't want to describe our problems. I believe as leaders, we should not spend time describing our problems. We should be spending more time looking for solutions on how we'll fix our problems. I believe that in the case of the diaspora in our country, we cannot only love your money without your voice. We must now have your voice. We must have your voice in the management of the affairs of the country. I have promised and I have undertaken, and you can hold me to account, that when I'm done with my consultations and I've identified the party I'm going to run on, I have promised that I will present people from the diaspora on the list of nominations from my party to the IEBC. Yeah. So that your voice can be heard. And not just for National Assembly or Senate for that matter, but for county positions. The city of Nairobi, the city county, all of you are buying apartments and properties in Nairobi. You need to participate. But again, secondly, some of you people, some of your leaders, we are working together on this petition to IBC to increase polling stations in the US to up to 15 or 20 so that you guys can vote. Because honestly speaking, let me ask you a question. Sometimes we also have to be serious. I think that is what frustrates me about public life in our country. We have to be serious. How do you expect someone to fly from Houston to go and vote in Washington? Honestly, does it make sense? Let's be serious. And what is it? In fact, when I was talking to the Deputy Chief of Mission, because I took it seriously enough, that I rang up the Deputy Chief of Mission here and I told him, my friend, we have to work together with fellow Kenyans. This is not rocket science. It's a straightforward business. And these leaders, as we were discussing the other day in DMV, are willing to also negotiate with institutions, including the schools in the various areas, that will serve as polling stations, so that the cost on IBC will be lowered. So all they need is an officer and a ballot box and the ballot papers, so that these people can participate in the choice of leaders in our country. We cannot come here and tell you how we love your remittances, but we don't care for your voice. We want to hear your voice. 3, as diaspora, please work hard to ensure that your voice makes a difference and it's heard. You are the ones who know the senators, the representatives. You are the ones who know the governors here. Some of you are working with these people. You know, we have a security compact with the US government, between Kenya and the US. It is you guys, some of you who now need to challenge the leaders, even here in Congress, to ask questions. Is your security assistance to Kenya being used against the lives of the people of Kenya? So that these matters are brought to the fore. Ask these questions. You are in a country where accountability is the way of public leadership. Please use that to help us. 4.3, I love what was said here by one of our speakers this evening. Let us now systematize a mentorship and training program for Kenyans who are at home by the brain trust we have in the diaspora. A lot of wonderful work is going on. The other day I met a gentleman it's called Maura also, in Baltimore, who has a program of bringing Kenyan teachers to the US and having them train here. And some of them, of course, have gotten jobs here and they've been able to stay, but they have created very strong partnerships. We are the foremost ambassadors of our country, and we are the foremost promoters of business with our country. I want to ask you, my brothers and sisters, let us now systematize how we get this institutional capability that we have by the numbers we have in the US to go back to our country, so that we mentor, train, and help grow the talent that we have in our country. And there's much more we can do when we continue having this conversation and continue talking. In the next 8 months or 10 months, I'm going to spend time now at home having conversations, listening to Kenyans like I've listened to all of you since last night, and I've listened to Kenyans in Texas, I've listened to Kenyans in DMV, on what you would like us to do together. I am inviting you all to be part of all of us who are forming a community of believers in transforming our country, so that we work together to transform our country. The challenges we face, a good number of them are man-made. There is nothing wrong with our country, but there's something wrong with some of the management we have in our country and some of the decisions that we take in our country. I gave this example yesterday. How is it? And it's very clear that all of you guys know this. When President Kibaki was sworn into office, he introduced free primary education. 1 million kids walked to school. 1 million. In fact, you have seen the clips doing rounds where President Clinton says that if there is one person he wished to meet that time, it was President Kibaki. That a new president of Kenya who introduced free education and 1 million kids walked to school. By the time President Kenyatta came into office, Kibaki's children were now ready to go into secondary school. That is why President Kenyatta spent time on 100% transition. The late Professor Magoha and I, and a number of us, spent time in villages, building classrooms, fighting female genital mutilation, and ensuring that girls go to school. Everywhere where we had challenges, like in Kilifi, because of teenage pregnancies, I banned disco matanga, because that nonsense where people go, when someone has died, they go at night to dance. And then they say, oh, we must replace the one who's in the coffin tonight. It was silly things like those, which eventually affect our children. And we worked hard through the provincial administration. I remember, for example, George Natembea, the current governor of Trans Nzoia, and a good friend of mine. Yes, he of the Tawe movement. Was first the county commissioner in Narok, then later regional commissioner in Rift Valley. We were terrorizing chiefs and assistant chiefs, telling a chief, if there is a girl who's going to be found in your jurisdiction who has not gone to school, you will pay for it. And drove these kids to school. Now, how is it that when we are supposed to be going forward, we want to go backwards? We reduced capitation from 22,000 to about 16 or so. It's not even going to schools. And every day is excuses upon excuses, In fact, I would be forgiven if I described what we have in our country as government by excuses. It started with, no, it is Uhuru and his term. Then, no, it's Raila and Azimio, and I don't know who. Then now, ni Wakikuyu wanataka kuharibu serikali. As I said the other day, next year it's going to be ni Wakizi, na Wakamba wanataka kuharibu serikali. So looking for someone to blame for things that we are supposed to be doing. Good people, we have challenges in our country. Some of them are man-made. Let us work on solving them. I am ready to lead the team to fix those challenges. I'm ready. Because it's true. Because this is not geophysics. This is not rocket science. These are straightforward matters where we need honesty and trust to make the decisions. As I move towards the end of my remarks this evening, I want to remind you this. In 2022, hold on a minute. In 2022, we told a lot of people, I addressed meetings where people were asking me these questions, and I told them, like I'm going to tell you today, because I have nothing to hide and you are my brothers and sisters. We either, A, stand up, be focused, and deal with the challenges in our country, or we will soon have no country. It's as simple as that. This pretense that we have had over the years, where we are told lies, huyu musunguko wa ujeuri na uongo, and now season 2 of that is about to begin. Where, people are flying around the country with helicopters every Friday, in the form of empowerment, 9 helicopters this way, 9 helicopters that way, dramatizing things. Then they end up in a village, they give those poor people 64 shillings. That is not even $1. Even if you gave your mother $1, what would she do with it? Let's be serious. I mean, these jokes, our country is better than that. So that is why we are here. And I promise that working together, all of us, we will fix these challenges, bring about integrity to the management of public affairs, and also create trust. Kenyans are looking for a government they can trust. That a government that will tell you something you can take to the bank. Not a government that you are not sure what they tell you is going to work or not. Finally, some of our public servants, and a good number of you have been in the public service before, we have some of the most hardworking public service, very professional, highly competent. I know it. I have worked with the public service before. I've given this example. For the entire time I was in cabinet, I worked with about 13 or so PSS. I mean, top-notch, smart people. Some of them Harvard, were McKinsey consultants and so on. Smart people. They don't need a benevolent guy from heaven, to come and give them lectures every day and dictate them on what they are supposed to be doing. They just need to be respected, be given an opportunity to move forward. And also merit, so that people are promoted because they are qualified to do the job they are doing. Not parachuting people left, right, and center because of the ethnic communities they come from. Collecting some political stillborns and assigning them responsibility to boss around public servants. And they spend time insulting public servants every day. We are the consultants, we are the advisors. And we have reinvented the way in which public service is supposed to be run. Yet, actually, public service is what holds our country together, as it were. So, my friends, when you look at the pay slips of the public service because of a taxation and so on, even self-esteem is lost. Morale is gone. How will they deliver? We will fix this and return the morale of the public servants to work. We will respect public service and public servants and listen to them when they advise us on what we need to do. So, lastly, you've heard all these stories that you will hear from politicians. When our country is going through challenges such as we are going, some of them crazily man-made, as I said. We're importing rice. Where farmers have got rice in the stores. You'll wake up tomorrow morning, these same fellows will go to Western Kenya or someplace there and they will expect people to be singing and dancing for them. Cane farmers who have not been paid for decades, they are importing sugar. The factories are closed. Let's be honest about our country. Let us be very serious about the affairs of our country. And that is why my colleagues and I are engaged in this constant conversation. And I know that maybe before the end of the year or early next year, another one of my colleagues will come here and meet with you and continue this conversation. We want you to join us in the program and the journey of remaking our country and reclaiming our country. Don't be discouraged. I know things can go wrong. I know how it feels when you watch those pictures on TV of thugs walking side by side with uniformed police officers. People shooting at members of parliament in broad daylight, and there's no crime they have committed. They are just going to a church and going to a rally. Can you imagine if the US behaved like that? We probably would not have been sitting here. As soon as the MC started, policemen walk in. They just start chasing us around. And there's nothing we have done. We have just met and danced. And I don't know why anybody should be unhappy about that dance. Now, those are the kind of things that we are dealing with. But do not lose faith. And people constantly dividing us. This is why I have refused personally. And we all reject, and I want to invite you to reject with me, and all of us well-meaning people, the idea of dividing us into tribes, into communities, and so on. We are not a congregation of tribes in Kenya. We are a nation called Kenya. And the challenges we have do not know tribe, they do not know region. People have challenges in Siaya, in Kisumu, in Kericho, and all over the place. So when people are raising these issues, they are not raising them because of their ethnic background. They are raising genuine, serious issues that we need to work on. I promise you that I am ready to make my contribution. I am ready to lead a team that will work on remaking our country and fixing our challenges. And I promise you, I'll keep my word. Hold me to account. Ask questions. And if I am the one who's so blessed and so privileged to cross that bridge and be the one to be in that office, listening to these wonderful young people who spoke here, asking questions about what we are going to do to resolve some of those challenges, like mental health. Half of the reasons why we have mental health problems in our country is because of the ecosystem and the environment in which we live. If you graduated 6 years ago, you have no job, your brother has no job, your sister has no job, your mom has no job, your father is earning a miserable salary, paying SHA, paying housing, a house you will never go into. How will you remain sane? Yeah, I'm asking you, how will you remain sane? That's why we're having these challenges. The anguish, our young people are going into these issues because of the challenges we have in the country. So the first solution to this problem is to fix the problems of the country so that our young people, we can get investment into our country, we can get private sector involved in our investment and creating employment for our young people. Then we will deal with these challenges. Then their self-esteem will come back, their dignity will come back. And that is what I pledge to do and I would like to do, so that we build trust in a transparent government. Finally, I ask you to keep the faith. Do not be discouraged by these momentary challenges. By God's grace, we will cross that bridge together. And when we do, we will fix the challenges of our country. Have hope that the better days of our country are ahead. And I am asking that we all join together as we walk on that journey to a better future as a country where we will be united, live together, be transparent, build trust in our country again. My item number one, if I got that opportunity, will be beginning on a program of healing the nation. Because our country is suffering from divisions and all this pain. But I believe it. I believe it in my heart. We will get there and we will solve these challenges together and we will fix our challenges as a country. There is nothing we cannot do with the capacity that we have. There is nothing that Kenya cannot achieve when we are committed as we are all the time. So by the grace of God, let's keep the faith, stay on course, and I count on you for prayers, for support, and also for counsel and advice, and for holding me to account as we lead that trip forward. May God bless you.